The island is made up of hexagonal sections like the center of a Chinese chessboard. The board they are playing on looks similar to a Chinese chessboard with its star shape. The tree in the center must represent the no man's land, like in the game. I'm also reminded of the game Candyland, where the objective is to be the first to reach King Candy's castle. It also gives me Island of Misfit Toys vibes. Chess is already a big element of RWBY, with Salem using the Queen's piece to show Ironwood she has duped him twice, and obvious symbolism in the opening of Volume 8. It would make sense for a story so rich in ancient lore for symbolism to expand to chess, which is a game with traces all the way back to Mesopotamia. Checkers and chess both set two opponents against each other. Chinese chess fits RWBY better because there are many different factions who opposed each other. Salem and her minions, Ironwood and his, the White Fang, the Happy Huntresses, Osmond and his colleagues, Cinder, and teams Ruby and Juniper. The star in the center of the board brings me to Chinese astrology. The Chinese zodiac consists of 12 animals including tiger, rabbit, snake, horse, ox, dragon, sheep, dog, monkey, rooster, rat, and pig. There are 5 Chinese elements that the animals are associated with: wood for tiger and rabbit, fire for snake and horse, earth for ox, dragon, sheep, and dog, metal for monkey and rooster, water for rat and pig. Each element is also associated with the season: spring for wood, summer for fire, late summer for earth, autumn for metal, and winter for water. The original trailers each came out in a different season of the year. RWBY started in autumn, Weiss followed in winter, Blake in spring, and Yang in summer. The elements are also associated with colors. Wood is green, fire is red, earth is yellow, metal is white, and water is black or blue. This I find interesting because water in RWBY symbolizes the pool of light, which is blue, and the pools of Grimm, which are black. Just as a side note, the pool of light represents the fountain of youth. These are all the colors on a Chinese chessboard. There are also 4 main nations, each with a symbol associated with one of the colors. Vacu is gold, or orange, red and yellow combined. Then there are the overlooked menagerie and the unexplored continent with a high volume of Grimm, most likely where Salem and the pools of Grimm are located. 6 in total, the same number of players needed for Chinese chess, the center being represented by the hexagonal island in Volume 9, a kind of no man's land. Each volume is also represented by a season. Volume 1 begins in spring since it represents new life and beginnings, and winter represents death and endings. Volume 1 is set in Vale, and its first arc is set in the Emerald Forest, with its final arc focusing on Blake coming out as a faunus. It also focuses on Jean, who wears a bunny sweatshirt. Volume 2 focuses on Blake's obsession with the White Fang and Yang opening up to her about her mother in order to strengthen their bond. Cinder takes a bigger role in this season too. Pierre also confesses to Jean, and he reciprocates. Volume 3 is focused on the Fall Maiden, and the deaths of Pierre and Penny, who represent metal, Penny being made of metal, and Pierre's semblance being polarity. RWBY also uses her silver eye powers for the first time, which emit a white light. Volume 4 is all about getting to Mistral, and the introduction of Salem's castle, her minions, and the pools of Grimm, and White's finally cutting ties with her father and leaving to find her found family, an ending of a relationship, in the season of ends. It also has Yang, who represents the opposite season of summer, in a state of hibernation, but finally rising for the spring which comes next. Volume 5 sees Oscar joining the team, Yang struggling with a broken heart, Blake rejoining and making Team RWBY complete again, and the beginning of Blake and Yang's reconciliation of their relationship. Spring is represented in these new beginnings. Volume 5 is also interesting because it shows that Yang and Blake both incorporate pieces of each other's seasons. Just like Yin and Yang both contain a little bit of each other. Yang's mom is the Spring Maiden instead of the Summer Maiden, which also correlates with RWBY and Yang's colors. While I'm on the topic, RWBY and Weiss's colors are also switched, and RWBY's trailer was set in winter. Blake's trailer also appears to be set in fall. Volume 6, we finally see Yang and RWBY's late mother, Summer Rose, for the first time. Yang and Blake experiencing bumps in the road, but ultimately strengthening their relationship just like the last summer volume. We're introduced to Jean's sister Saffron and her family. This season sees them getting grounded again, while Volume 2 was more passionate, like fire. Volume 7, they finally arrive in Atlas. They are reunited with Penny in the same season that they were first separated. The volume also focuses on someone becoming a maiden like the last fall volume. We also see the beginning of the fall of Atlas. Volume 8 seems to freeze time as it happens in a matter of hours, while the other volumes are more spread out. Half of the team gets stuck in a freezing winter tundra. The Grimm River wreaks havoc on Atlas. Grimm Liquid and Grimm are released into Atlas. Salem wins this round. Penny passes away in this season that represents death, having been in a volume represented by each of the seasons now. Weiss's sister Winter becomes the Winter Maiden. Volume 9, we're back in the season of new beginnings. They're in the woods again, just like Volume 1. They're trying to get to the World Tree. Instead of looking for chess pieces this time, they're playing the game instead. There's heavy Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass symbolism. Rabbits, rabbits, rabbits. Are those Jean's boots? There's also the Cheshire Cat. There's no cat in the Chinese zodiac because the cat slept late because the rat forgot their promise to wake them. The first volume saw Blake and Weiss reconciling their differences and becoming friends. Could something happen in this volume to do the opposite and cause a rift in their relationship? Why are Blake and Yang closing their eyes? Will Blake be the last one to wake in this volume? Will she get left behind? The rat won the race to be the first in the zodiac. The finish line was across the river, and they got the help of the ox to cross it by singing them a song. The rat jumped down just in time to win the race. Then the order goes as follows: ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, sheep, monkey, rooster, dog, and pig. Cat was so angry it never reconciled with their good friend, hunting rats to this day. The mouse Little is scared when Ruby mentions Blake, and the other mice in the trailer restrain her. The mystery woman in the trailer also asks, what if you could leave Ruby Rose behind? Shed like an old coat. What might happen if you don't? Going back to Yin and Yang, and how Ruby and Yang's colors are switched, there's a story in the RWBY fairy Tales of Remnant, called The Gift of the Moon. The people of Remnant asked the sun to work too hard and extend the days too long. The sun fell and shattered, and its light spilled out. The people raised a bigger and better sun into the sky and put the old sun back together and raised it back into the sky to become the moon. Yang was badly hurt in Volume 3 and is called Sunny Little Dragon by her dad. She got her prosthetic arm but recognizes that she won't be the same again, and that this is her new normal. Her younger sister shines brightly too. When Yang is standing on the rope bridge in the trailer, the narrator says, "You never were the hero." The balance of yin and yang is important. When one is stronger, the other is weaker. To quote Blake, "We protect each other." Ruby's silver eyes preserve life. When Yang uses her semblance, her eyes become red and she becomes the embodiment of destruction. Ruby's silver eyes represent the god of life. Could Yang's represent the god of destruction? The White Queen also has red eyes. The jewels on her crown look like blood drops. In Alice in Wonderland, the Queen of Hearts demands that the white roses be painted red. Talk paints Maria's silver eyes red, and they never emit white light again. Salem's eyes were painted red by the Pools of Grimm, 3 characters with blonde hair and red eyes. What did Salem want Ruby's mother for? Could Cinder paint one of Ruby's eyes red? An eye for an eye? Though Ruby's eyes are silver, they emit white light. And through the looking glass, Alice was a white pawn. She must win in 11 moves. The author Lewis Carroll says about the game, "As the chess problem has puzzled some of my readers, it may be well to explain that it is correctly worked out. So far as the moves are concerned, the alternation of red and white is perhaps not so strictly observed as it might be, and the casting of the 3 queens is merely a way of saying that they enter the palace. But the check of the white king at move 6, the capture of the red knight at move 7, and the final checkmate of the king will be found by anyone who will take the trouble to set the pieces and play the moves as directed, to be strictly in accordance with the laws of the game. The game is not based on logic, as this is Alice's dream. There are 2 points where the white queen does not checkmate her and flees from the red knight when she could have captured him. She is absent-minded and experiences time in reverse. When Alice reaches the last square, she becomes the queen and can see the whole board. She takes the red queen and checkmates the red king. When Ruby wins her game, she'll finally arrive at the Tree of Life. In my other theory videos, I spoke of the World Tree for Norse mythology. On its maps, you can see Nidavellir. Nidavellir is home of the dwarves, who are also blacksmiths. They have the best forges in the 9 realms. It's also where the dwarf Atri created Mjolnir. Could this woman be a dwarf like everyone else in this world who represents Atri? Did Atri turn all the people from Atlas who fell into pawns? Could she have fashioned John a new sword and helmet, stripped him of his identity, and turned him into the Red Knight? Will she try to turn Ruby into the queen? Why are Blake, Weiss, and Yang so small? Has she already turned them into pawns? Have the 3 queens been cast into the palace like Lewis Carroll said? Jean is based on Joan of Arc, who was burned at the stake. Till this point, everyone believed that Cinder would be the one who was Jean's downfall. Perhaps he will instead meet his end in the fires of the forge. In the last spring volume, Jean stood up to his bully and protected his friends. Perhaps he will do the same by the end of the volume.